Hey guys, this video is to look at how the SpaceX shares does behave during the launch of Starship. So last week, if you look at what happens, was a monumental success for Starship. So let's have a quick look at that video, and then we'll come back to um, the stock here and have some idea or some insights about what happens when there's a success in launching Starship. Does the stock price goes up? Does it come down? What effect does that have? And if you hold SpaceX shares at the moment, you are in fact a business owner. You hold portion of that business, so you're actually investing into rocket manufacturing business, and you are in that in business if you like. So let's have a look and see what success those of you who invested in this stock achieved last week. Right, guys. So let's look at what is the final story. So that's what I'm most interested in. So I'll move this a little bit much forward. That is interesting. But the question is, how does that make any changes to the stock price? So I'm just going to look at last week trading alone. And as at last week, if you look at the July the 21st, we could say the stock price was $128. And the expectation last week would be the stock price is actually going to go up. And given that it declined a week before that, so we were expecting some kind of recovery last week, but that didn't happen. Now, the critical part of it is the launch of the Starship last week actually happens after the trading hour. So if I move down to somewhere last week, let's see how that looks like. So that should be 25th, 24th, okay. So if we look at the 24th, this is 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Mountain time. So technically that should be East Coast somewhere 5 p.m. or thereabout. Okay. So if you look at the launch time, the expectation is actually it should go up, but the opposite is actually the case. But this was before the trading hour, before the launch anyway, because this was 4 p.m. Mountain time. If we move it down a little bit, that same day around 5 p.m., we could actually see a dip. But what happened after that, shortly after that, we see, I think that launch was around this time. We could actually see some move, a little bit of move upward. So before then, it was 1,112, 39 cents. And after the launch or during the launch, we see that went up to $113.45. And that tends to remain in terms of momentum for some time. Actually, it remained stable and went up to some points before it dipped this morning. Okay, so we could see here it actually dipped from 115 to 109. So we're quite used to this type of market. It's not a problem. Um, so basically, we could see, yes, the success of Starship launch is important, but not significantly. But again, the stock price was already quite weak even before the launch. But the whole point is, when you look at during the launch or just before the launch, there seems to be the market participant sentiments in terms of be success or not successful or successful. We could see that somewhere here at 5 p.m. You could see a little bit of dip. But if I could remember, I watched that launch around 6 p.m. The launch took about a couple of minutes before we actually know what the result was. And I think that was around this time, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And of course, that was successful launch of the Starship. So that tends to remain. Today, market reaction tends to be positive. Overall, I would say launching those rockets is going to have impact on SpaceX stock price, but my assessment of the impact is going to be a short-term impact. What will be the major impact is going to be the overall products scheme. So depending on what products innovation or the products they produce, Starship is just one of it. But remember, as I said, you have the Starlink, which is the internet service and others. But at the moment, I think the stock price is actually selling at much, much lower value than the actual value of this stock. I do expect a significant change over time. And if the Starship launching and the completion of that portion of the unit of the products that form part of this entire SpaceX is actually successful, and you see people have it tourism to the moon, that is going to change the game. And at that point in time, you're going to see a significant change in the stock price. If I am in position to invest in this company today and I have the fund and I'm on a long-term horizon for the next 10 years, I'll definitely say yes to it, invest in it because I have that confidence that in 10 years time, uh, the stock price could double, especially if the Starship launching is successful. At this point in time, I'm just banking uh, the value of this company based on the other products, not really much about the Starship. But the Starship is going to be one of the major costs. Launching those rockets comes with significant cost. But if the research and the improvements in the Starship is successful, that is a game changer. And again, that is where the benefit of taking some of this risk early comes in, because at that point in time, it becomes too expensive to buy the stock, and perhaps that will be the value of the stock at that point in time. But this is a great time to look at this and say where it is headed to. But for those who bought this share a couple of weeks ago, months, of course, would have seen a significant decline. Institutional investors will be, to some extent, desperate to sell their shares off, especially when they have to meet a short-term financial obligations. But for individual investors who are in a long-term investment horizon, will definitely have nothing to worry about because there's a probability that the market will recover over time.